Welcome to episode 503 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the tooth of March 2024, and featuring Sarah Jane Smith, Mirror, Signal, Manoeuvre with an O, written by Peter Angelides and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Sadie Miller as Natalie Redfern, and Jez Fielder as Josh Townsend. I'm Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and with me are color commentator Alex Fireheart.
Hello.
And technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
The Tooth, and nothing but the Tooth, or as Alex might know it from a recent viewing, the Tooth.
So it's been, probably a week and a half since our last podcast, due
Ish.
to...
Pretty much.
how permanent is this change? Are we expecting at this
Months,
point?
I believe.
But yeah, from what I have been told, it is effective. Like, it's anywhere, but like it could be. It depends at this point, really. But like, effectively, I am now doing full-time hours at work, Monday to Friday. So I can't make the normal days. So we had to shift to Saturdays US time. And the reasoning being that someone at work had his visa ran out.
Oh.
So he's got to deal with that.
That's
and
not a very temporary thing, usually.
Yeah, from what I heard. And this could be like misheard info, I don't know, but apparently his visa might have attempt to re-up it might have been rejected. So he's got to go back to his home country first before he can sort that out. So it could be anywhere between like 4
Weeks
to 6
or
months.
months, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if that were a worker in the
backstream.
U.S., typically if you're here and your visa expires before you renew it, you usually have to go home for a year or two before you're allowed to come back. So that was my first guess, but I don't know how different that is in different places.
It could be different depending on where you're at. Yeah.
But generally, this seem like as far as I've made it clear to my supervisor that effectively, I will stay on these hours for as long as it takes for something more suited to what I want opens up. Which honestly, at this point, I'll basically be like, if something with Tuesday, Wednesday off, so we can go back to the normal streaming day.
For me, it just
opens back up.
happenstantially kind of seems to co-align with what's going on in my job, which is that we've finally got enough extra workers doing the same job I am that they don't need me late nights on Saturday nights. So they moved me up to like 9:30 in the morning, which kind of matches what I do on Wednesday, which is I get there at 8 in the morning. But that means I get done by 6. I can quickly grab dinner like I did tonight. I grabbed some Taco Bell on the way out. Would have been a little bit better experience if their system hadn't eaten up my order. It took them a few moments, but they managed to dig it out from somewhere and went, "Oh shoot, sorry," and quickly got about it. But otherwise, yeah, it was a pretty painless experience. I got to eat I forget what they're called. They have a new chicken taco over there now, and it's part of a $10 deal. 2 of those and a nacho and a drink.
Yeah, this time, I was when we first started this, I was working in the restaurant industry where I tended to work, 40 hours of my 60-hour week was over the weekend. But ever since coming to grad school, this is a great time for me. The hardest thing about it is I don't know when to set the YouTube exports, because it used to be we would stream on Tuesday, I would go to sleep, I would wake up on Wednesday, and at some point I would export it to show up on YouTube by Sunday morning. And obviously, I'm not exporting this by Sunday morning, but I need to set a time that's consistent and reasonable.
I'd say if nothing
Whether
else,
that,
at least get the edit done tomorrow and
yeah,
set up for Monday morning.
I was gonna say whether that means trusting myself to get my ass up and exported properly on Sunday without forgetting, or what.
Hmm.
Other than that, I've for anything else going on that's not completely job related, I've had a bunch of stuff come in the mail. I got a personal fan for at work. Um, I have two
Love
reaction
personal
figures.
fans.
Hmm?
I said love personal fans.
It's one of the neck ones that kind of looks like a headset.
Oh, okay, yeah. I have one of those. It hasn't worked great for me, but maybe hopefully yours works better for you.
Mine's been pretty decent so far. It actually seems to be doing the job
Okay.
quite well, and there's some places where I can actually set it up on the counter and like have the air blow against something, so it ricochets right back
Mm.
at me.
Oh, that's nice.
Um, uh, yeah, I ordered some more reaction figures. I ordered them a couple of weeks back, and the two that I got, and literally an hour later, I got an email saying last chance to order them. I'm like, because the people who run Reaction Super 7, they tend to occasionally release stuff on their lines, but only for a very limited short amount of time, and they only release certain quantities. And
Yeah.
the two that I ordered from them just in the nick of time was Gremlins, Gizmo, and Stripe. So those two just showed up in the mail this week. Trying to think, there was something else I swear I ordered. So Gamer Subs, the multivitamin I really enjoy. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag sponsor me. I get hundreds of
I
views
was
on my
gonna
ghost
say
stuff.
this is not sponsored.
I,
Why
I, I
did
get
you
I get I
always the
get hundreds of views on
promotion?
my ghost stuff. Gamer Subs, call me. Um, their tea was okay, and that was one of the other things I tried from them. That's not the multivitamin. It was no thrills, but it wasn't bad. They just delved into ramen. I think the ramen's pretty decent. It's again like not any major thrills, but I will say it's it 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 looked a little pale when I first opened it up. I'm like, oh, okay, but added the powder and everything and ate it up and went, oh, this actually tastes pretty good, and it actually softens up pretty quickly once you start stirring it up. So I was pleasantly pleased with that. And matter of fact, I even recorded a reaction to eating it. Which that'll be on the channel hopefully in about a week or so. And that's the other thing too. I'm finally caught up with all the stuff on my personal channel. It's I'll have two more reactions to do because two channels I react to will have new stuff in the next couple days, but yeah, I'm finally caught up with it, which means I can actually do video game streams again and not sit there having to constantly go through more paranormal videos. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it for the most part.
Okay. So I decided to buy some minor things I needed for around my apartment that will hopefully make things more convenient. I bought a little whiteboard that I thought was magnetized to go on the fridge, but it is not magnetized, so I need to figure out where I want to Velcro it up. But I'm using it to basically just keep track of my shopping and takeout so that I know how much I'm spending on food and I can kind of maintain a balance. So, for example, right now, because I went shopping yesterday, my money spent on food, which would be all of my takeout plus my shopping bill since I last went shopping, is $194. And I'm just basically seeing how far I can stretch each shopping trip, and also using it as a way to motivate myself to buy cheap stuff so that when the summer comes around, I'm not overspending since I'll be on a I only get financial aid twice a year, so I'll be on my regular income once. I
Yeah,
don't actually
you have
get.
to micromanage yours a little harder because you
Yeah,
only get a certain
so
amount.
I get a monthly paycheck from now, from now through the rest of the year, and then I don't get anything more than that once a month paycheck until August. So I'm just it's a way to make sure that my once a month paycheck is not being all spent on takeout and delivery.
Oh,
I
actually, speaking of paychecks, I just found out something interesting at work today, which is that it doesn't matter how many hours you worked in a week at my job. If you go over the hours they had planned for you that day, you actually get overtime. They go by daily, not
okay,
weekly,
gotcha.
which was kind of interesting to find out.
Another thing I got was I saw this the last time I flew was that instead of using the free earbuds from the airport, I mean from the airline that get tangled up in your pocket and wrap around your keys and shit and piss you off, I saw that the person I was sitting next to on one flight had a little Bluetooth broadcast sort of thing. You plug it into the headphone jack, and then
Mm.
it broadcasts to your Bluetooth earbuds. So I bought one of those for next time I fly. I figure it'll make life a lot more convenient. And then I bought some little sensor lights for. I have basically a walk-in closet here, which is where all of my my academic and professional clothing is. But there's absolutely no light in it. So it's like, okay, rather than needing to bring in my phone as a flashlight, I bought these little sensor lights I can put up on the wall that are motion detecting. Uh, just nice little thing, not cost $20. Make life a little more convenient.
Right.
And the choices I found on Amazon, at least at an affordable price, were either ones that require 3 AAA batteries every few months, or just ones that you charge with a USB. So of course I had to get the ones you charge with a USB because I'm not going to be out of here like I don't know I can't get dressed because I don't have any more AAA batteries because that would happen to me. Um, so that's about it on my little update there.
Oh yeah, we've also had people trying to look at the house, and that's just cost me to spend money.
Mm,
Not only because I had to go out and drive places, but also I decided to go shopping in the general town of where I work now.
gotcha.
Found out there's a game retro gaming place, and I bought an NES game there. And I finally got to check out the Lego store. Only planned to buy something for my nephew, and then when I get to the front counter, I see they have like the little character things for Lego up there. And I'm like, sure, okay. And then I see one with monsters, and I'm like, God dang it! But two for myself. I got the Fly, and I got the Wolfman.
Alex, did whatever issue you were having go away
Hmm.
health wise?
Hmm? Oh, I'll say this much. If it's still there, it has gone down so much that I barely notice it.
That's good.
That's good, yeah.
Um, like I might still have to see because it's funny because at this point I basically want to see a doctor about it first to just be like, is this something yous can do, or am I gonna have to um that you can give me stuff to take or whatever to get rid of it fully, or have I got to
Or they turn
go to a
around and they'll be
dentist
like, "You're
about it?
now allergic to, I don't know, a specific type of vegetable or something."
Yeah. Or yeah, or if it's a matter of, or is it just or is it a dentist issue? Because I'd rather go to see a GP first and then be like, yeah, no, you're gonna have to see a dentist about that. I don't know. Then go to a dentist
Right.
and the dentist be like, actually, you could just see a normal doctor for that. Now that'll be like several $100s, thanks. Or some ridiculous shit
I
like
still
that.
need to call both of those things. I've been supposed to get a root canal for a month, but I called on a Friday and they were closed for the weekend, and so I left a voicemail and they never called back. So I need to do that. And I haven't been to a GP since I moved, and my prescription ran out. So I was like, oh, why am I so hungry and sleepy lately? Am I just not eating enough? Am I not sleeping enough? Well, being hungry is is an anxiety symptom I've had, and being sleepy is a depression symptom. And
Mm.
that's the two things that my medication is supposed to help with. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot, some of the physiological symptoms of that are just coming up as almost a form of withdrawal now that it's all out of my system.
Ugh.
Mm.
And for some reason, the online system for my school's like doctor clinic, whatever you want to call it, they say if it's like related to mental health, I need to call in and not schedule it online. So I'm like, oh great. So I guess I'll need to motivate myself to call in. All right. Board, do the thing. On tonight's show, we have birthdays and news. We've got a bit of birthdays and lost story. Then we've got a little bit of geek talk, and then we have our episode summary and our review, final thoughts, and ratings. So Alex can kick it off with births and deaths.
Yep. Starting on the 23rd of February, we have Kirsten O'Brien, who is the presenter for Totally Doctor Who for Series 2, turned 52. Also on the 23rd of February, we have Jerry Davis, who was a Doctor Who story editor from 66 to 67, and the co-creator of the Cybermen. Would have been 94, but died in 91 at the age of 61. On the 24th of February, we have David Goodison, who played Davros in Destiny of the Daleks, turned 83. On the 25th of February, we have Sadie Miller, who plays Natalie Redfern in Sarah Jane Smith in these audios for Big Finish, and was recast to play Sarah Jane Smith for Big Finish moving forward, and is the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen, turned 39. On the 26th of February, we have Ingrid Oliver, who played the Osgoods in from 2013 to 2015, turned 47. Also on the 26th, we have Roni Selby, who played Salem Glitz from 86 to 87, and also again in Big Finish. Would have been 86, but died in 2021 at the age of 83. On the 28th of February, we have Katie Wicks, who played Rhiannon Davies in Torchwood Series 3, turned 44. Also on the 28th, we have Murray Gold, the composer for Doctor Who and its spin offs from 2005 to 2014. And again, moving forward, I think, or at least came back for the specials. Turned 55. Also on the 28th, we have Mervyn Pinfield, who is a Doctor Who associate producer from 63 to 64, and director of 3 serials from 64 to 65. Would have been 112, but died in 1966 at the age of 54. Moving on to March. On the 1st of March, we have Roger Delgado, who played the Master from 71 to 73. Would have been 106, but died in 73 at the age of 55. On the 2nd of March, we have Alexander Armstrong, who played Mr. Smith in the Sarah Jane Adventures for the entirety of its run. No age given for that one.
Oh, did I skip? Oh, I skipped Alexander Armstrong's age. My bad.
54.
It seems I mess up once a week at least.
Also on the 2nd of March, we have Michael Troughton, who played Professor Albert in Last Christmas. I was almost going to give him other credits, and then I realized I was thinking of David Troughton. My bad.
I can never keep track which is which either.
Those Troughton boys get around.
Yeah. As the son of Patrick Troughton. I think he might have also done...
He's definitely done Big
some
Finish stuff.
Yeah, I think he might
But we don't usually list all of that.
Yeah. Like, I think he might have done the second Doctor a couple times instead of David, but I could be wrong.
If so, Doctor Who Guide does not have that information, which is where we get the birthdays from.
Yep. In any case, he turned 69. And finally, on the 2nd of March, we have Stephen Thorne, who played Omega in The Three Doctors. Would have been 89, but died in 2019 at the age of 84. So, happy birthday to Kirsten, Jerry, David, Sadie, Ingrid, Roni, Katie, Murray, Mervyn, Roger, Alexander, Michael, and Stephen. And as brought up before, we do unfortunately have to say goodbye to someone this week. Pamela Salem has died at the age of 80. I was trying to think of ways to reword it, but my brain is just not functioning properly today, so I'm probably just going to directly read from the article that we have. But Pamela Salem appeared in 3 Doctor Who stories. In 1977, she played Twos in The Robots of Death from the 4th Doctor era. Her voice was also used as one of the voices of the Zoanon in Faces of Evil, Face of Evil. She also then returned later on in 1988 to play Rachel Jensen alongside the 7th Doctor in Remembrance of the Daleks, and later reprised her role as Jensen in the Big Finish audio spin-off series Countermeasures and 1963 The Assassination Games.
You know, I had always wondered if any of the characters in Countermeasures were actually the actors returning, so there's the answer to that.
I thought at least half or so of them were.
Pamela Salem was born in Bombay, India, and educated at Heidelberg University in Germany, and later the Central School of Speech and Drama in London, England. Her film work included the role of Miss Moneypenny in the 1983 James Bond film Never Say Never Again, so the one where they drag Sean Connery kicking and screaming into one more Bond movie.
So that was the one made by another studio then?
Yeah, that was the one where it was a lot of studio rights bullcrap that got it made. It's like the Thunderball, but not really, because of issues that happened with that movie. Other TV appearances include part of EastEnders, where she played Mafia affiliate Joanne Francis.
A Doctor Who actor was also in EastEnders?
And as the Evil Witch Belor in ITV's Into the Labyrinth. Other TV guest appearances have included roles in an episode of Blake 7, the Onedin Line, The Professionals, Howard's Way, Ever Decreasing Circles, Tripods, and All Creatures Great and Small, which I assume was probably the original with Peter Davison.
Most likely.
She later moved to the United States, where she continued her career in series such as Magnum P.I., Party of Five, ER, and The West Wing, where she played a British Prime Minister. God, I'm thinking I found something else that was like, oh, I'm surprised they didn't mention that, but I'll have to look that up again really quick.
I believe it was my grandmother was a big fan of Magnum P.I.
Oh, they don't even mention it, but she was also in the first... is that the movie I'm thinking of? Yeah, The First Great Train Robbery. So there you go. She was in a movie with Sean Connery at least twice. God, I swear there was something else that I saw her in that I was like, oh, that stood out, but maybe I'm thinking of a different actress.
Ah,
And my brain's just playing tricks on me. I will say well, actually no. How far back does EastEnders go again? Oh no, okay, so she was in EastEnders fairly early as well. By that, because she started in the late 80s and it started like mid 80s. I keep thinking it's older than that for some reason.
yeah, I thought it was
That's
70s.
it. That's what I found that they didn't mention because they probably didn't care. Uh, she has kind of what effectively amounts to a cameo playing, I'm assuming, the Queen of England in Helsing Ultimate Volume 4.
Oh,
So she's been the prime minister and the queen.
Yeah.
the Queen. So
I don't
she
know
is
what
indeed
other
into
big
voice acting.
role in. I don't know what other big role in the UK you would need to have a hat trick.
Pretty much.
All right, moving on to episode or filming news. We have news. Somehow we have news on both the 2024 series that's already been cast or already been filmed, and the 2025 series. These were announced in Doctor Who magazine. Let's see. So Genesis Linnea, depending on how that's pronounced. Let's see. She appeared on. Okay. So she appeared on the makeup artist Instagram on July 11, which likely places her in the finale block, episodes 7 and 8. I don't think they're on the finale of the 2025 season yet, so this would have been the 2024 season then. And yeah, that's an Instagram. Then there's also in the same season is God. I don't have no idea how to pronounce the I with two dots above it, so I'll pronounce it poorly. Guion Morris Jones, who previously worked with Ncuti Gatwa in Masters of the Air. It's Welsh, of course. It's Welsh. The name, I mean, obviously, I'm not calling the person an it. I'm calling the name an it. In the new season, which is being filmed, the director for Block 3 is Australian director Amanda Bracci. They don't mention what she has done, and I'm not familiar with the name. And then also directing episodes in the 2025 season is Macaulay McPherson, who has directed for EastEnders, Doctors, and Waterloo Road. I know at least two of them tend to have all of the Doctor Who alumni at some point.
That is totally not what I copied. I do copy and paste, and it tries to paste something earlier. I'll just
Gotcha.
say that, and it's
And
like,
yep.
no.
And that's all the news from this article. And in the past, we would have spent 20 minutes on IMDb looking over all four of their careers. But that gets tedious, so we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, nothing.
That plus, to be
I'm
quite
over it.
honest, I looked up Amanda Brocci's.
Yeah, it says
thing
you
real
made a
quick,
point of
and,
that, and I looked it up too, and I'm like, yeah, nothing. Nothing I'm aware
nothing yous would know.
Okay, so she
but
might be
some things
relatively
that I've
less
at least
experienced.
of. Possibly,
like
yeah.
things I've heard of, but it's very
I
explicitly
heard of.
Australian stuff.
Oh, okay.
That might be why.
Unless you've heard of Picnic at Hanging Rock before.
Nope.
But even then, that's a modern version of that story.
But that's fair. I mean, they also have hired plenty of people who are well known for like British stuff that never made it to the U.S. So actually,
I will say
including Australia is kind of branching out in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other one has EastEnders, so at least they have some British television under their belt. But that's about it.
And Doctors, I think, is also a British sitcom. Either sitcom or soap opera, one of the two. All right, and then our next bit of news, we have one new big finish Doctor Who release that came in February 22nd or 22nd. Torchwood Sabotage, written by James Goss and starring Sophie Aldred, the one and only Ace, and Paul Clayton. And this one, I noticed that this is the first time I've seen this, although I don't know if it's been elsewhere. There was a warning that it included content not suitable for young audiences.
Ooh.
Considering
Big Finish
some of the
getting
stuff
edgy.
considering some of the stuff we've covered in Big Finish, either it's a new
Hmm.
warning for stuff they have always been doing, or this is especially out there. Considering we've covered body horror, probably like some
Yeah.
sort of sexual violence, and other like
I mean,
visceral things, I'm a little surprised.
there's literally mentions of an SA whistle in the story we're covering today.
True, although it
Mhm.
doesn't. There's
doesn't
not
go all that far,
actual
but yeah.
assault.
Oh
in
yeah,
that,
yeah. Like,
And that is it for our news.
hmm.
All right, so I guess Dune Part 2 first? Or.
Yep.
Alrighty.
I figure I'll go with the order I watched them in.
All right.
So yeah, I ended up finally. Well, I say finally. It only came out like this week, just gone, I think. Saw Dune Part 2. I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of funny because, like, as much as Dune, as just like a story with all the influences and all that, can come off as very white savior narrative thing. This this one in particular feels like it's trying to like knock up against that and like not necessarily downplay it, but always kind of play into it. But like make it like it's like no, we're not trying to play this like fucking can't even really think of another good example. Well, I guess a recent good example is like friggin' Daenerys or something in Game of Thrones. That's a bit of a white savior narrative. It is generally not playing as a positive thing, really. Which I don't know if that's technically accurate to the book or if that's just, well, it's 2024. It would be a bit weird to play a white savior narrative straight. But yeah, like it's really interesting. I will say Batista's acting kind of caught me off guard because there are points where his character's actually got to be like afraid, and he pulls it off pretty well. Um, he just feels like he's getting better and better the more varied stuff he's doing. I mean, he's still playing like a hulking brute of a character, but still.
Mm.
Solid acting across the board. I will say the one thing that I kind of took issue with was the fact that, like, I already knew ahead of time that they have said we're not just doing the first book, we're doing at least the next two. I forget exactly how many Dune books there are, but I don't think they're intending to do. I think they've made it clear they're not intending to do all of them. They're just intending to do like the first three.
I'm trying
or
to remember
something
how
like
many
that.
just Herbert made. I'm
Yeah.
thinking it's somewhere in the vicinity of like 6 to 10, but I can't remember for sure.
Mm.
And then his sons have gone on and
Yeah.
on and on.
Yeah, apparently
Based
some...
just solely on his shitload of notes, apparently, for most of it.
I think I saw something saying they said they were stopping after Messiah, which, from what I'm
which is the
seeing, looking
second
it up
book,
on
so-
Wiki, is the second book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, only in the next book? I guess it depends on
Maybe
how
it's
well
a matter
does.
of like, yeah, it might be a matter of that one might be a bit more self-contained, where they're going to be like, we'll either stop here, or if it does well, we'll keep going. But I think they'll probably stop after like the third one because they'll probably be like, okay, if we try to go any further, I don't know how well we're gonna retain.
Because I know there's
attention.
Messiah, there's Children of Dune. I think there's
Mm.
God Emperor, and I'm thinking there's at least a couple more after that, or around that.
Mm. But
I
yeah,
imagine they want to stop before the ones that are sent like centuries after the first move. But
the ones his kids made for the most part, yeah.
Mm.
Because the further along it goes, it gets to the point where literally most of the main cast of the original books are clones. That's where that franchise has gone to, basically. They're clones that are self-aware and self-remembering of everything they did in their past life.
Mm. But yeah, let's see. Okay, maybe there was only 3 at first. Oh no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so he did at least 6 that I can see.
Okay. I thought it was somewhere
and then
around
the
there.
rest are all his kids. But yeah.
His kids and then the other people that have been entrusted
Interesting.
with the franchise, etc.
Yeah. It's an interesting movie. I would have watched them back to back, but that would have been like fucking 5 hours or something. So no. Yeah, worth seeing. Although if you have issues with photosensitivity, maybe be a bit careful because there are some flashing lights in this. I don't know how intense they are, but for people with that kind of an issue, it might be particularly annoying and like make it unwatchable in certain parts. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for that one. So then after that, and I probably shouldn't have bothered because or at least I probably should have just tried to go to bed, wake up earlier, and then watch it after I woke up or something. But I ended up watching David Lynch's Dune, which I did look it up. Apparently, the only one he did was the theatrical cut. Anything other than that is, I think, like the Alan Smithy cut is like the 3-hour one.
I thought he removed himself from the theatrical cut too, but
I mean maybe, but I don't know.
I'm pretty
maybe
sure he
they
removed
had
himself
to
from
have
old
a little
versions
bit.
because technically he didn't get to give his final version even for the theatrical cut. So he was pissed.
Yeah.
There's like 3 stages of it. There's the theatrical cut. There's the cut that he managed to get to where he wanted it to be, but still was missing footage that they didn't let him finish making. And then there's the really extended cut that just includes stuff that was on the cutting room floor that they just added in because it still kind of worked, but it was unnecessary.
Like, yeah, from what I can tell, some of the additions that I think in hindsight, in some cases I've seen attributed to David Lynch were additions that the producer that was trying to get this adaptation made in the first place later filmed after the fact and added in. Like that random let's have this one character just talk directly at you about what's happening.
So
Yeah.
I'm according to, and there are some citation needed marks here, so this is not perfect. But at least according to Wikipedia editors, the only version attributed to Lynch is the theatrical cut. The television cut was the one where he was basically just like, I disavow this version, take my name off the credits. And then the extended cuts were probably extended by other editors.
Yeah.
But apparently, Lynch has turned down the opportunity to make a director's cut, and he does not like to talk about Dune in interviews.
Yeah, like when I was discussing it with some people in a different Discord server, they were saying like apparently filming that movie was hell for everyone involved, pretty much.
Yeah,
Which
despite
sucks to
that, a
hear.
number of these actors and actresses would go on to do more stuff with Lynch, so.
Well, I guess it's just a matter of like, it was hell
It was apparently like
production
abysmal
outside
trying to get slog through the filming, yeah.
Yeah,
No
rather than it
one, no
being
one
like,
particular person's part.
hmm, um, yeah, like it was interesting watching this after having seen Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 and realizing how condensed this
Yeah.
has to be to fit into one movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
an hour and 20 minutes into the 84 movie is the entirety of
Mm-hmm.
Dune Part 1. Like they condense a lot, which is interesting because they also add certain things too. So it's not like they're trying to just speed run through what's already there. And like I feel like it made more sense because I had watched those two movies. And the interesting thing was realizing that realizing what dialogue must have been either direct quotes or slightly modded direct quotes, by virtue of the fact that there was some dialogue where I'm like, oh, this is the same in both adaptations, so this must just be like
From the book.
directly lifted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like both of the fights with the Baron's nephew, like bring attention to Shawnee and that, and it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so that's
Yes,
directly a
yes,
thing.
that particular character is that kind of piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he
And
gets
yeah, it's
exactly
like,
what's coming to
um, I will say the one thing that this made me like, damn, I kind of wish these newer movies had gone into is, and you know, it's David Lynch, so I'm not really shocked, but the fact that there are like, um, there's just more like blood and gross shit in the 84 movie by comparison.
him.
Like the newer ones are fairly toned down
So
in that
you're
regard.
telling me the new ones are a bit sanitized, eh?
Uh,
Anywho,
yeah,
alarms.
yeah. But anyway, like both adaptations are worth watching. They both have their own strengths and weaknesses, but yeah, um, all worth checking out, I think.
Okay. And that brings us to our episode summary. Do you need a minute to drink some water or?
Get that big
That
gulp.
should be good.
Alrighty. Stopwatches here. So,
Mm-hmm.
starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we open on Sarah checking her answering machine before taking a trip to Lakshadweep to research a biowarfare scandal from World War II, running into someone named Wendy Jennings along the way, who ends up joining in her search. After dodging someone tailing them, including avoiding being run over on a beach, they manage to track down a man called Dr. Brandt, who exposits about his experiments in the 40s, until the same man that had been trying to kill them earlier comes in and shoots Dr. Brandt, seemingly killing him. Sarah knocks the man out and the two escape, with Sarah intending to go back to the UK, only to be talked into visiting the Scala, the company that this guy works for, offices in India instead. While trying to get evidence once there, Sarah is captured and eventually brought to the CEO's office. Finding out that both Wendy Jennings is actually Wendy Jellicoe, a relative of Arnold Jellicoe, and that the CEO is Hilda Winters, the leader of the Scientific Reform Society, who were previously seen in the Tom Baker debut story Robot, and that Hilda was entirely responsible for planting bait that Sarah took that ended up ruining her career, calling her dealing with Sarah a side project relative to their true goals. It also turns out that Scarla had broken into Sarah's new home, injured Josh, and stolen the broken down K9 Mark III, and gutted it to make a voice modulator, probably among other things, to mimic Sarah's voice, with Dr. Brandt turning out to still be alive, having been not actually shot. And a plot to poison a reservoir with something called the Brucella bacteria turns out to have been his idea. The group drive off in separate cars, and Sarah manages to force them to stop the car that she's been put in, only for them to crash into the water, with seemingly only Sarah and the man whose name I forget but he pretended to be a taxi driver earlier on, in the beginning surviving, with the others drowning. And the man almost shooting Sarah, only for Josh to come out of seemingly nowhere and kill him first, being left a bit shaken by the experience. Sarah and Josh then dodge being hit by a car that Harris and Hilda are in, with the two managing to get away, because Josh can't manage to shoot their tires out. Josh reassures Sarah that the right people have been informed by Natalie of what their organization was up to, with Sarah resolving to fight back, and Josh letting her know that him and Natalie are in it for the long haul. The end.
3 minutes, 10 seconds.
There were probably bits that I left out and certain things I couldn't name right.
Some chunks and stuff, but trying to make it on time.
That is a good evidence that I should not trust what is on my screen for Twitch, because it was not even at 3 minutes yet when you said 3 minutes 10 seconds.
It's a little bit behind, Bill, just a little bit.
Yeah, like it's definitely more behind than it was at the start of the podcast. So I guess I need to refresh it periodically, because I don't think that there's a speed up command like there is for YouTube.
Sometimes
when you're not looking at it, it can slow down and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes either refreshing or like doing the pause play like really quick.
That's true.
It jump ahead.
Yeah, whereas YouTube, I know if you just set it to double speed, it'll do that until it catches up. All right, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here for the pecking order for our review. So, Alex, what did you like? I know you've just been talking for the past 15 minutes, but what did you like about this story?
Honestly, even though I'd kind of spoiled it for myself by accident by looking up, like, cast that had previously come up in other stories, the reveal that of all people, this is like the remnants of the organization from Robot is kind of a nice callback. Of just be like, yeah, it is people that she's previously dealt with before that have just held a grudge this whole time. And, you know, they can't go after the doctor because fuck knows where he is, so they go after the next best thing. And I guess they also don't want to fuck with Unit either.
Because Unit has a bit more eyes on them, and they would be able to call out the fakes pretty easily.
Yeah,
it's easier to go after.
Whereas Sarah is more of a on-the-ground, normal person, and they feel like they can target her more easily.
Which, I mean, I think that's kind of a side effect of, like, the way fiction is basically, like, reporters are cops, but without, you know, all the baggage that comes from being cops. And it's like, but they have no backup unless their name is Lois. And, I mean, I guess in theory, Sarah Jane has the doctor, but he's not, like, looking out for, Sarah Jane got kidnapped on June 12th. Well, let me nip back and save her. All right, Matt, what did you like?
Well, I did like what Alex did call out, that this is a nice ensemble of returning peoples from previous stuff. But I will say that I generally did not expect the plot kept you guessing as to what was actually going to be the plan. And to add into that plan, stealing, again, they don't say it outright, but as soon as I heard about that box of parts, I'm like, oh no, K9, no, what are you going to do to my boy?
Yeah. Wait, so that's what you liked, was that they
Uh,
took K9?
well, I like the plot twists and like that suddenly bringing K9 into it and making that a major part of this. The last act of the story was interesting because they tried to pull one over on her. I guess you call them companions. What all the major reveals were and why they're doing all this, because they've been obvious, maybe not directly, but they have been obviously hounding her for a while now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
In particular with this ongoing storyline. Also the the more interesting twists, like the fake death and everything too, is like, oh, I actually didn't expect them to do that. I thought they were legit after him.
Yeah.
And then as they continue to reveal more twists, it's like, oh, all these plot twists at the last minute here actually makes sense. Oh shit, we're in deep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of interesting plot points on this one that I found intriguing. It kept me very geared up and interested in what was going on.
So you really like the twists and turns of everything. Okay. I'm going to say I liked the companions kind of putting together their own scheme when Sarah Jane ignored them too much and being successful with their scheme. So both the fact that they were active and they did something despite Sarah Jane not being involved in it, and the fact that this was not a tie your shoelaces to each other and fall on your face scheme. This was Josh comes and saves Sarah Jane's life at the last minute because they were active rather than doing what she said.
Right. This is definitely the most competent Josh has been this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, scraped up the rental.
That's why always get the insurance on the rental because you never know what some other asshole is going to do. You could be the best driver in the world. If the guy next to you can't drive, you're going to have a fine to pay. All right, what do we dislike about the episode, Alex?
It's weird because I feel like I had an overall aspect before. But maybe it was one of those things where I thought about it being an overall thing and then I realized, no, it's more of a scene. Yeah, I might have to just pass for now until I think of something.
Okay, Matt?
I think it happened in more than one scene, so I'm going to put it as a general thing. At least in the first half or so of the episode, I don't know what it is about Sarah, but she seems like very snippy at people, especially that taxi driver, but also later scenes. They're just like, what is she all right? Is she having a breakdown? What is going on that she's like literally so angry at just about everyone?
Right, yeah, definitely. They're definitely like not going out of their way to make you like Sarah Jane as much as Sarah Jane Adventures did. And even then, I think it's almost like a transition, right? Beginning of Sarah Jane Adventures, she was kind of a snippy bitch, just a little bit, and then it's like they ease her out of it when she has her kids. And here they're just like, yeah, we're leaning into snippy bitch Sarah
for some reason, yeah.
And to a point, it kind of made a bit more sense in Sarah Jane Adventures because at that point she was trying to like not have anyone else involved, so being like that weirdo who lives on the street.
That quiet, strange reporter lady that just lives across the road, yeah.
I will say, related to one of the things you mentioned, I need to keep reminding myself that this taxi was not in the United States. meaning that I don't know what British standards are for tipping your cab driver. But yeah, I listened to it twice, and both times when she was like, "I'm not," when she refused to give a tip, I was like, "Sarah's the bad guy."
I only refuse to give a tip if I've been really screwed badly by a business previously. I'm giving them a kindness chance to redeem themselves.
I mean,
Then I'll
I
start
think the
tipping
one
again if they
time,
start doing good again.
the one time I didn't tip my Uber was when I had like $7.50 in my bank account, and it was a $7 drive. And
Oh.
some would say that I shouldn't have taken that drive, but I needed to get somewhere.
So yeah, at least I pick up my stuff myself too. So swings and roundabouts a little bit. I will give them again. I'll tip them as soon as I'm aware that they're doing good again. Because I know there's off days too, so you can't keep holding it against them.
No, now that mine has been sniped out from underneath me, I need to think if I had a backup. Alex, have you thought of anything yet?
I mean, effectively, I think what I had was going to be what Matt went with, and I'm realizing
I picked the
the
one main
thing
flaw.
that probably, yeah, like I think what probably threw me off from thinking about it as I was probably thinking about it more in terms of specific scenes that were examples where that happens, rather than like her overall
yeah,
being
it's
snippy.
she's really snipey with the taxi, and that's the first one, so it's probably the more memorable. But she's also very snappy with everyone else when they keep trying to call her or trying to contact her. She's very snappy with the gal who is faking being a reporter, and it's just like on and on and on and on. It's like, wow, like this is the everyone has a reason to hate Sarah Jane episode or something here. Holy smokes!
Yeah. Like, if the paranoia had been like constant throughout these stories, it would probably work a bit better, because like it's supposed to be a matter of like, stop fucking saying my name. They might, I don't know my tinfoil hat on. They might be hearing me. Like, if it was constant throughout, like just building, and this was like her hitting her breaking point, that would make a bit more sense. But last story, she was like, "Hey, I'm just going off to a trip to see a friend, whatever." And
Yeah, there
like,
seems like there's been a bit of a
and
jump
then
in
things
time,
go,
like quite
yeah,
a substantial one in that.
yeah, for her to be like fairly chill at the start of the last in Ghost Town, and then this, she's like, I mean, I kind of joked about it just before, but it's just very tinfoil hat, Sarah out of nowhere.
All right. So my other thing, I think this almost might be more of a scene than a specific general thing because it only bothered me at one point. But just in case I have another scene I want to mention, I might as well go ahead and say it. This is like because for certain parts of the story you have Elizabeth Sladen, you have Patricia Maynard playing Miss Winters, and Louise Faulkner playing Wendy Jennings, all in the same scene. And some of them, like Wendy, is two different characters, right? There's the reporter that never existed, plus the actual bad guy that she really is. And at certain points, I feel like at certain points during that, I feel like some of the voices get close enough that I had trouble telling who was talking. And I know that like this is a
Yeah.
recurring issue for me, so I don't expect everyone else to have that issue. But yeah, the fact that there's multiple people with the same accent, really only Elizabeth Sladen's voice stands out, and even then, I feel like at times they're kind of imitating her. And no unique effects or accents or anything like that, which kind of makes it harder to distinguish them. Again, this is a recurring issue I bring up, so I don't necessarily expect anyone else to be bothered by this, but I noticed this just at certain moments where I was just like, which one's talking?
Yeah, there is a moment fairly late where they go from like something Natalie says, and then it cuts back to Jenny, and I'm like, wait, is this still the same person talking? Or
Hmm.
was it always this person talking? So yeah, I definitely get what you mean.
Yeah, this is another one where I have to shrug my shoulders and go, I don't know. I was perfectly fine, but again, that could be just a me thing too. You never know.
Mm. All
Maybe my
right,
mind's eye
favorite.
is just better at detecting who's who. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, maybe. Maybe you are better with people with English accented voices and can tell them apart better.
Maybe.
All right. Favorite scenes.
Mm.
Um, hmm. You know what? Yeah, I'll just go with that one. The after like everything goes down right near the end, and Josh is talking to Sarah, and we're like, "Oh, I knew it wasn't you because you would have said fewer, not less." Like just like the payoff of
The
that
payoff,
running
yeah.
gag, yeah,
They,
of
they they
just
actually
like
followed the
that's
rule
how,
of three on that one, so you
yeah,
knew it was going to be important.
yeah, like the
Mhm.
the payoff of well, this sort of AI voice replication was slightly off, just
Yep.
enough so that yeah, that he was able to tell, which is also nice because it's like, well, there you go, Josh is in a completely useless
Hmm.
person that he's able to like, hey, wait a minute. uh,
Okay, Matt.
I guess I'm gonna go with the villains finally showing their hand. How about this reporter I've been working with? Oh, she's a step all along. Matter of fact, she's actually related to one of our big bads. Oh no! And who's all the big bads? Oh, they're all people that know you from Robot. Your first episode of Tom Baker. Oh no! And how are you gonna convince people that I'm actually doing this despite all the obvious, possibly flawed paperwork? Well, we're gonna also have a fake voice of yours. We somehow managed to steal K9 and use parts of him to make a fake voice of you. Oh no! just like, just a whole slew of like in references and everything else going on all at once, and a whole bunch of
Hmm.
payoff as to what's been going on. It was just a really good final like here's what the entire setup has been all along moment.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with a moment a little bit earlier than both of those, and it's going to be the one time Sarah Jane was not paranoid, and she immediately seemed to just like follow along with the person because the person matched up to her own biases and said she was a reporter and everything.
hmm.
Is the first time is when Nat turns around and is like, "By the way, did you know she was fired a month ago?" And that's and yeah, and that's the one that where the first time Sarah Jane is wrong. But it
Hmm.
puts on it clues the audience into something's not right about this person, and Sarah Jane is just like, oh well, obviously
Hmm.
she just needs a big scoop. It's
Something's wrong here. Something's amiss.
right. All right, least favorite scenes.
Hmm. I've got a few, so I'm trying to narrow it down to one. Uh, God, now I'm blanking on what one of the other ones was. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll go with this one. It's like it's more sort of nitpicky just because it's like, oh come on, really? But the reveal that they gutted Canine,
Mm,
I'm just kind of like, really? That feels like a waste. I mean, like, yeah, it's smart for the villains to do
The
that, but
poor
also
dog
like,
can't
oh,
get a
come on,
break.
it's Canine. Yeah.
right. And of course, this was written before school reunions, so we don't
Yeah.
know if they were actually planning. I mean, obviously, when we listen to the next season, we'll know if they had a plan for him. But even then, like this audio series got cut short by when Doctor Who came back, so we don't know if it's going to end with K9 back in the attic.
Hmm.
Like some sort of mention, yeah.
All right, so yeah, so it's we're at Matt's least favorite scene, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So all these people are backing up Sarah, constantly doing all this stuff that might be illegal. And they're trying to keep her on the road and trying to dodge these people, etc., etc., etc. All this crazy stuff that's going on, and yet for some reason, at least one of them particularly, was like just dead set. Oh, it's all in her head. What? How? How's that all in her head? Have you have you not heard from multiple people all the crazy shenanigans and all these people hounding her down and calling her out by name?
Are you saying when like when she was telling Nat that like, oh, I dodged a tank yesterday, and she was like, oh, it's all in your head.
Well,
That one or
the one the one guy that was with God, my brain won't remember names. The guy and the gal, the two that are still like in Britain as far as I'm aware.
Right, the companions.
Yeah, the companions. Yeah. Like the gal in particular is just constantly like, oh, Sarah's just crazy. Sarah's just full of it. Like Sarah's never really dodging any of this stuff, and it's like, how many people have to tell you this? Because it's not just him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just him, and it's not just Sarah. I mean,
I forgot about that scene, and I completely agree with you. Yeah.
It's like, why are you even helping her then? Like, you're up to your neck in stuff that would get you in a lot of trouble by the sounds of it. Why are you still helping her then if you don't believe her? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Just struck me as rather odd for that particular character. Maybe they were just trying to play it on the cool, but it didn't sound like that.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's meant to be like, you know, you're going up, you're going beyond, you're cutting out people that you need to because you're so paranoid. But I don't think it was delivered well, because you're right, like she dismissed things that we know happened, and that's
multiple people have told her
come
happened.
off as the reasonable one.
Yeah. Like she's basically, it comes off as like, well, yeah, there are people like that you keep dealing with, but she seems to be taking the attitude of like, well, they're not literally watching you 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know?
In a story where we learn that yes, they in fact are. So
where she was just like, yeah, there was a tank or a jeep or whatever, and it was like, but it wasn't actually chasing you. You imagined it was chasing you. And yeah, that no.
As it misses you by inches? What?
Yeah.
And it's not even just the one tank.
But yeah, like again,
that's kind of what Sarah Jane gets for cutting out her two closest allies and not letting them know what's going on. They're not going to believe her, but yeah, it was not a good look for Nat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where, like, if this was built up a bit more across these audios, it probably would have worked a bit better, because it would have just been that there was some friction there already.
Yeah, it just feels like it comes out of nowhere, and it's like, well, then why are you here?
Yeah, it feels like we're missing, like, between Ghost Town and this, it feels like we're missing, like, 2 or 3 stories that built up the friction.
I mean, that's kind of what we had with episode 3 as well, where it's just like in episode 3, all of a sudden they're talking about her being excessively paranoid and cutting them out. And we hadn't really seen enough to be like, really, to agree with them.
Yeah.
This is like, if this came directly after part 3, and we hadn't taken this break, where we did 3 and then spent a year and then did the next 2, I think we would see it a lot more. But that's also where I think putting part 4 in there was kind of a mistake. On to me then, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with the scene where Sarah Jane and Wendy are sitting there and they're talking about the guy who's driving the boat as if he's like like they know he can hear and understand them, and then they're talking about him like a thing or a robot. Like they use like the name of his ethnicity almost as if like the way you would like refer to like a piece of machinery. And I'm like,
Like you're talking about a robot and just calling it the robot.
right. And it's like you're not saying anything explicitly racist here, but your tone feels really racist and super uncomfortable. And it just
Yeah,
not
and
it
it's
just
not
makes me
even
really
the only
uncomfortable listening to
yeah,
it.
yeah. And in hindsight, it's not even really the only instance. Like some interactions, like they're very like blink and you'll miss it, but there are a few here and there when she's interacting with certain people where it's like, that felt like you wouldn't like, none of the white characters get that, so it's a bit eh.
Hmm.
With some of Sarah's dialogue. So yeah, and like Josh towards like the small
Yeah.
Indian bloke.
So
That
yeah, so
yeah,
like maybe her comments toward the taxi driver would have come across differently if it wasn't what looks like, and I can't find anything on the actor's ethnicity, but it certainly
mm,
looks like a white English guy putting on an Indian accent, which
mm.
does not
And
paint this in a
to
positive light
varying
at
yeah
all.
to
And
varying degrees as well. If it was because he's like playing up a more stereotypical accent as the taxi driver, and then pulls it back for the reveal.
mhm, right, which is a realistic thing for the character to do, but yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
encourage
yeah,
benefit of the doubt.
yeah.
All
Mm.
right, final thoughts.
Um, I did enjoy this. There is plenty of positives. There are things that do unfortunately drag it down as well. Um, it's just one of those things. It like with and yeah, like as we said before, this really does feel like we're kind of this is like certain stories happened, scene missing. Oh, and then suddenly
Hmm.
like um I mean, in hindsight as well, I'm realizing that this also means that a thing that I listened to at the end of Ghost Town is exclusively at the end of Ghost Town as a prelude to this. And all it is like, I think it's Harris and Hilda talking on the phone or
Oh, was that a
something. Or like,
post-credit scene?
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I missed it.
because yeah, like at first I thought it was just, oh, this is probably like part of the opening of the next story.
Hmm. And
And then
I
it
think you
turns
mentioning
out in
that, like,
yeah,
it got to what sounded like the end of the story, and I was like, oh, there's two more tracks, but it sounds like those are unrelated. They're not part of the story, so I stopped.
yeah, like that's what I thought, but in hindsight I'm realizing, oh no, they technically are. At least well, one of them was. The other was just flat out like the final track of Ghost End is flat out just ads for other Big Finish stories. Um but yeah, that second last track is like, oh, okay, no, that was actually important, I guess. Because it was reintroducing Hilda Winters into it. Not by name, but like, she's technically been in a couple
Mhm.
of these audios now
I
as like
think
just
she
this
was only at the
mysterious
very end of
figure.
part three because we talked about
Mm,
her like showing up as the escalation to a bigger big bad.
yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, even then, it's so like minor of just saying that like the events of Ghost Town were part of. Oh well, fuck it, Sarah's there to get rid of her. Um, and obviously failing, but it's like this really does feel like if there's like as was brought up before that this was apparently cut short. it makes me wonder if this was also just like, given when this, like, God, when did this start again?
Are you talking about release date or
Yeah.
um
Okay, so this is all in like series one was in 2000, which we've just finished.
yeah,
With
so
Mirror Signal Maneuver was
this
in
was released
all
November
was
of
in
'02.
'02. Yeah. And then the next one wasn't until 2006. So that was after that. But even
Mhm.
then, that to
Oh yeah,
me,
that was after. Okay, so
Hmm.
maybe they paused when Doctor Who was announced and then
yeah.
came back
And
to
then
it.
came back. Yeah.
So honestly,
When was School Reunion aired?
that feels so weird to me because
School
like,
Reunion was April of '06.
mm.
And yeah, so season 2 started before School Reunion and ended after it. That's interesting.
But
Hmm.
yeah, that's
Oh no, sorry, they're both. It was entirely before. I
mm.
misread.
But yeah, this feels like it was this almost feels like maybe there was meant to be more than 5 stories, and then like
Yeah,
they
maybe
had to
there was
cut
supposed to be more
some for
stories, but
budget.
because of the actually, I'm willing to bet because the show was coming back, they suddenly ran into a wall and they
Mm,
had to cut for time.
yeah, or just maybe like for whatever reason, maybe they overestimated how much studio time they'd get to record for these, or
Mhm.
some of the actors weren't going to be available for the recording times they wanted. This, that, whatever. Like whatever happened that may have, because I would have to believe that's why, because otherwise this is a very weird thing to do for this to be like sort of set up, but like with only
Then shuttered
five
for 4 years.
stories. Yeah,
Well,
like with
I
only
will
five
say
stories, it's so weird to just kind
so.
of have this come out and then come back out of nowhere.
From having listened to other Doctor Who series, I will say I don't think the way this ended was unusual for them at all. In fact, I was worried it was going to be even more of a cliffhanger and even less of a conclusion than it was. The
Mm,
4 year gap, or technically more like 3 year gap, because this is November and the next one's
mm,
February. So like the 3+ year gap, I think is the weird part, and I think that had a lot to do with RTD Doctor Who coming back. Um,
mm,
but just like the fact that it was 5 stories and then well, they're still out there. That's something that I've definitely encountered with Gallifrey and other Big Finish series, because
mm,
they do not like to end seasons. They like to just keep you thinking on a cliffhanger, like
mm.
an old, like a comic book.
Yeah, like the ending like scene and all that works as like, okay, it's a big reveal, okay, we're gearing up to fight back and stuff. That does work as like an open-ended season series finale, but also it's just like, yeah, but like the whole thing we were talking about of like the ramping up of her paranoia and there being a bit more distance between her and Natalie and Josh just feels like it comes out of absolute nowhere. Like there was supposed to be like even 2 more stories where that ramped up, and they had to like cut them for like budget reasons or something. It just feels so weird.
I
Like especially when you compare it
mhm,
to something like Sarah Jane Adventures,
mhm.
which was low budget kids TV fare that whatever there was that was building, they usually did decently well.
On that
Um,
note, it would have been interesting if they had just made part 3 the ending and put 2 more
mm,
stories in between parts 2 and 3. I think that sounds like that would have been the way to address the comments you're making.
mm. Or just even, yeah,
Hmm.
just actively make like less and have it be like more, I guess, serialized, even if it's like serialized but still kind of standalone. Because yeah, like Ghost Town ultimately, outside of a reveal that you might miss, has nothing to really do with anything else. So it's a bit weird, but yeah. I mean, I would still say people should check it out, but yeah, it's better than Ghost Town, but it's not. I guess it's one of those things of like it's good, it's not great. There's things holding it back from being great. But that's my
All right,
rambling done
Matt.
with.
I was gonna say that was quite the ramble on. To be much more succinct, I thought this was really good. I think it just needed like another pass or two to rework some things that were minor issues. And as far as I'm concerned, there were minor issues. I thought the majority of this was really good. The voice acting's been really great. The character build up has been interesting, and I just hope they actually do go somewhere with K9. Hopefully, in time to bring him back for the original Doctor Who show. Knock on wood. That Davies was running at the time. Trying to think if there's anything else. I do hope that they would pay a little more attention to kind of wrangle in some of the issues with some of the dialogues. But other than that, the majority of this I thought was really good and kept me interested. So always nice to have a good story to listen to, even when you accidentally think it's going to be streamlined and it's not.
All right, on to me.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, in terms of looking at this as a series finale or a season finale, again, part 4 is really the outlier there. I think if you this follows neatly off of the way the character interactions are set up in part 3. And yeah, I think any complaints I have are generally complaints that have followed over from the series. I don't think there are new complaints really about this episode specifically, other than maybe that what I mentioned as being a bit racially uncomfortable. But even then, like, I doubt that's really new. It just didn't stand out in such an obvious scene compared to the past. So for looking at this as an episode within this series, I think it was a solid episode. It had, a decent story of trying to figure out what's going on, the kind of mystery thing, which I think the Sarah Jane Smith has been a lot better at the investigative journalism part of things than Sarah Jane Adventures was, even though Sarah Jane Adventures was overall better written. And I'd like, yeah, it brings the bad guys into light. We really get to see what's going on, and it also, gives the companions an opportunity to shine, despite Sarah Jane's attitude, or because of Sarah Jane's attitude. So overall, I think this was probably a pretty solid entry to the series. Now, before we give our ratings, I just want to mention we had some different ratings between the individual episodes, but right now, all 3 of our averages for the Sarah Jane Smith series are identical at a 4.125 out of 5. That's because the only real differences we had was that I liked Comeback more than both of you. I disliked Ghost Town more than both of you. And then you two's ratings have been identical to each other the entire 4 episodes so far.
Sounds like it might be different on this one.
So with that, ratings for Mirror Signal Maneuver, starting with Alex.
Going with my thing with I'm just looking at and remembering now what I gave Ghost Town, and now I'm thinking, shit. I said this was better than that, but I don't know if I can justify giving it higher either, so... You know what? I might retroactively have to knock Ghost Town down to a 3.5.
Okay, that's what you want to do?
And this can be a 4.
Were we using blue for changes?
I think so, yeah.
And this one's a 4?
Yep.
All right, Matt?
It was almost a 4.5, but I'm thinking it's close enough that it's still gonna be a 4 for me on this one. But yeah, those rewrites were
4.9.
needed another pass on this
Okay.
one. Yeah.
And I'm obviously this is not a 5.0. I'm just trying to think like, is it a 4.5? On one hand, it would be poetic to have the exact same score as both of you. But I think if I were to come to this independently, there are flaws.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's one of the better episodes of this season. And so I've given two 4.5s of this season so far. I think I will give this a 4.5 as well.
You
Right. So that brings this story to an average of 4.17. If we look at Sarah Jane Smith Series 1, that's a 4.2 from me, a 4.1 from Matt, and a 4.0 from Alex. All right. So let's see where that falls on our overall rankings. So 4.17 would be number 172 out of a total of 461 things reviewed. It is on par with Destiny of the Doctor Shockwave, Sarah Jane Smith Comeback, and Third Doctor Adventure The Annihilators. It is not as good as 10th Doctor Death and the Queen, 6th Doctor The Last Adventure The End of the Line, 9th Doctor Adventures Girl Deconstructed, or The Chimes of Midnight. And it is better than Susan's War Part 3 Assets of War, The Chaos Pool, and 6th Doctor The Last Adventures The Brink of Death. All right, so that's all we have to say about Sarah Jane Smith Mirror Signal Maneuver. Don't forget to like the video since you've listened this far. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube to get our exports each week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified whenever we stream. Next time, we wrap up the third box set of 9th Doctor Adventures Series 1 with 9th Doctor Adventures Monsters in Metropolis, written by John Dorney and starring Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. Speaking of Metropolis, we'll see you then.